Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore star in an episode of the Story of Dr Kildare going back 71 years ago to March 16th, 1951. And we thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, Hump Day, 16th day of March, 75th day of the year, and we have 290 days remaining until we get to 2023. The U.S. Military Academy at West Point, established on this date in 1802. Edward Clark became the governor of Texas in 1861, replacing Sam Houston, who was evicted from the office for refusing to take an oath of loyalty to the Confederacy. The first publication of an article by Joseph Lister outlining the discovery of antiseptic surgery in the Lancet back in 1867. In 1926, Robert Goddard launched the first liquid fuel rocket at Auburn, Massachusetts. In 1935, Adolf Hitler ordered Germany to rearm herself in violation of the Versailles Treaty, conscription reintroduced. From Prague, in this date in 1939, Castle Hitler proclaimed Bohemia and Moravia a German protectorate. And in 1945, the Battle of Iwo Jima ended, but small pockets of Japanese resistance persisted. In 1968, Robert Kennedy, the brother of the late President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, announced he would be a candidate for president.
I run to seek new policies to end the bloodshed in Vietnam and in our cities, policies to close the gap that now exists between black and white, between rich and poor, between young and old. I run for the presidency because it is now unmistakably clear that we can change these disastrous, divisive policies only by changing the men who are now making them.
Less than 3 months later, on the verge of winning the Democratic nomination, Bobby Kennedy assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian, in Los Angeles on June 5th. Kennedy was 42. The Complete New English Bible, published on this date in 1970. In 1988, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, Vice Admiral John Poindexter indicted on charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States.
I did not commit any crime. I will never give up. We will win. I just cannot tell you how soon.
Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, both North and Poindexter convicted, but the convictions overturned on appeal. A blizzard on the east coast of the U.S. on this date in 1993 killed 184. In 1995, Mississippi formally ratified the 13th Amendment, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery. In 1998, Pope John Paul II apologized for inactivity and silence of some Roman Catholics during the Holocaust. In 2005, in San Mateo, California, Scott Peterson sentenced to death by lethal injection for the 2002 murder of his wife Lacey and their unborn son. Following the sentencing, Lacey Peterson's stepfather told reporters that allowing Peterson to be charged with the murder of the unborn baby was good.
We're fortunate we have this law that we have. It's a double murder. He killed our grandson and our daughter. Every state should have it.
Now, in August of 2020, Peterson's conviction upheld by the state Supreme Court, but the death penalty stricken. He was resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole December 8th of 2021, just last year. In 2014, Crimea voted in a controversial referendum to secede from the Ukraine to join Russia. In 2021, 8 people killed, 1 injured in a trio of shootings at spas in and near Atlanta. A suspect arrested that same day. People of note passing away on this date in history. Judge Roy Bean, the frontier jurist and pioneer. Singer Tammy Terrell. Presidential candidate Thomas Dewey. Actor and TV host Arthur Godfrey. Pro wrestling manager, wrestler, and also had written quite a good book, Gary Hart, passing away on this date. Ivan Dixon, you remember him from Hogan's Heroes. He was an actor and a director and a producer. The Spinners' Bobby Smith and Frank Sinatra Jr., all passing away on this date in history. This is the birthday of President James Madison, the leader of the Musicians Union, James Petrillo. And you'll hear lots of talk about Petrillo on many of our shows, especially ones that Phil Harris would talk about Petrillo all the time. Also, actor Conrad Nagel, naturalist Marlon Perkins, First Lady Pat Nixon, also comedian Henny Youngman.
A lot of people ask me, how do you become a comedian? Well, it's simple, folks. You got a lot of jokes together, you tell them to your friends, you keep the good ones. Now, before you know it, you are a riot. Everybody wants you in the home for parties, weddings, everything. You get free meals, everybody makes a fuss over you. Now, if somebody tells you you ought to go on the stage like an idiot, you believe this. Now, to go on the stage, you must learn how to speak clearly. You go to Dickens school. They fill your mouth with marbles, and you are supposed to talk clearly right through the marbles. Now, every day you lose a marble. When you've lost all your marbles...
Henny Youngman, Take My Wife, Please. A very, very funny comedian, born on this date in history. Also born on this date, actress Mercedes McCambridge, who did a lot of radio work in the 50s and the 40s as well. Comedian, country musician Jerry Jeff Walker and Jerry Lewis.
Oh, wait a minute, you gotta take me with you. Come on, your father and my father were partners. They died together.
When I'm ready to die, you can be my partner.
Oh, we can be partners. We're like swell.
Jerry Lewis, born on this date in history. He lived to the ripe old age of 91. Game show host Chuck Woolery, 81 years old today. Actor Eric Estrada is 73. From the group Heart, Nancy Wilson, 68. Rapper Flava Flav is 63. From the Gilmore Girls, Lauren Graham is 55. From the new Baywatch movie, Alexandra Daddario is 36. And the son of Eddie Van Halen and Valerie Bertinelli, Wolfgang Van Halen, playing with the group to this day, is 31 years old. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 16th day of March as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And from 71 years ago, Lew-Ayres, Lionel-Barrymore, The Story of Dr. Kildare. On this Wednesday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.
Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just two of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065.
You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're going to talk a little about Lew-Ayres a little bit later, because even though Lew-Ayres was a fine actor, he was his own worst enemy because of his personal beliefs. And he believed things strongly, and we'll talk about some of those beliefs a little bit later. But right now, the story of Dr. Kildare, March 16th, 1951, 71 years ago today.
The Story of Dr. Kildare.
Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick. And whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be held as sacred trust. I will exercise my art so
The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer brought you those famous motion pictures. Now this exciting, heartwarming series is heard on radio. Now, The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Hello, novelist.
Hello, physician. Come on in.
Thought you might be too busy to see a tired old doctor this morning. How's the book, Amy?
I'm still going to the Emerson Publishing House, chapter by chapter.
Oh, I'll be looking forward to reading it and saying I knew her when.
If it's published. Well, I'm not dreaming any wild dreams about myself as a writer, but at least somebody's reading my stuff, and that means an awful lot.
Oh, I'm sure it does, Amy. And I'm all for you. But now that I know the state of the novel, how about the novelist?
Me? Oh, I'm fine. Outside of a pair of broken legs, nothing really. It's just these pulleys and weights that stretch me out like Monday's washing that bother me so much.
Well, that traction apparatus has kept your legs straight and normal through it all.
I know. I'm trying to use a typewriter with all this paraphernalia. I feel like a boom on a loading dock.
I've got some good news for you, then. No more traction from now on. We're going to have you taken down later on this morning.
Oh, Dr. Kildare, do you really mean that?
I do. I'm putting you in physiotherapy right away. Pretty soon wheelchair, then crutches.
And after that?
Graduation day. Your own 2 feet, Amy.
And I live happy and successful ever after?
Ever after. Because you're the best patient I ever had.
No, it's because you're the best doctor I ever had. Or maybe old Iron Jaw's the best doctor.
Iron Jaw Gillespie.
Yeah, I think he's the best.
Oh, what about Paul Campbell? He's sort of a doctor, a specialist in matters of your heart, isn't he?
You'll never be a writer, physician.
And Paul won't be a doctor. But he's certainly done his part in helping you recover, Amy.
I might never have known Paul, really, if we hadn't been in that accident together. He might have just driven me home and forgotten me. After all, I was just a girl waiting around in the outer office. I didn't have anyone anywhere before I came here. Now look at me.
Dr. Gillespie, I heard you. You don't have to yell at me. I was born with ears.
If the truth were known, you appeared on a stump one day and were hatched out by the sun.
What?
You certainly never. Where's Dr. Kildare?
Across the hall, waiting for you in the x-ray room as planned.
As planned?
As planned. You said you'd meet him there at 2:30.
Well, then why didn't you say so?
I just did say so. And I have one more thing to say. I was definitely born at St. Mary's Hospital, Hackensack, New Jersey, November 14th, 1902.
1902.
1902.
You mean 1802? Oh. Probably aboard Columbus's flagship.
Dr. Gillespie?
Jimmy, I'm sorry I kept you waiting. What are these?
X-rays on Amy Dickens.
Oh, yeah. Well, mending process seems to be advancing nicely.
I'd like to have her in a wheelchair by the end of the week, if possible.
Aren't you rushing things a bit, Jimmy?
I don't think so. She's in a fine state of mind, eager to get on her feet again. Probably to get married.
Yeah, I suppose so. Paul Campbell, of course.
Of course. Who else comes to see her every day?
Jimmy, I've been meaning to speak with you about that.
Oh?
I know Amy Dickens is your patient, and...
Hello. Anybody here?
Oh, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Come in, boy. Come in. We were just talking about you.
How are you, Dr. Gillespie? Dr. Kildare?
Fine, Paul.
How's Amy?
Dr. Gillespie and I have just been going over her x-rays. She's making wonderful progress. We've taken her off traction. Really coming along fine.
That's good news. Anything that makes her well. As you know, I'm the guy who was driving the car. I put her in the hospital. If it hadn't been for me, she wouldn't be lying upstairs now. I want to do everything I can.
And you are, Paul. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid Amy would be much further away from recovery than she is at this point. She was in pretty bad shape. Oh, I understand you've placed her novel.
Not exactly. I've given it to my boss, Mr. Emerson. I hope he likes it, although Amy doesn't expect him to buy it and publish it right away.
Oh, that's good. A severe disappointment in her life right now could be disastrous.
Well, just getting Mr. Emerson to read it seems to be good enough for Amy.
Yeah.
It's about all she thinks about, so I'd say her recovery was pretty much in your hands.
I'm beginning to realize that, Doctor. Could I see her?
Oh, it's a little early in the day for visiting, but I suppose it's all right.
Thanks, Doctor.
Jimmy, I don't like it. I don't like it a little bit.
What do you mean?
Has it occurred to you that the medical safety of Amy Dickens rests entirely in that young man's hands?
He's been a big help to her. I have all the faith in the world in Paul and in Amy's spirit.
Oh, so have I. But not in the complications that are the byproducts of love. Or maybe I'm just getting old and fussy.
Oh, remember, she was alone and friendless before she knew him. Now she has him and a career to look forward to. I wish all my patients had the same accruements.
But his role as a lover and an advisor doesn't make him a doctor.
No.
Know? And no matter what her progress, Amy Dickens still requires competent medical treatment.
Maybe I should clamp down on her. Whip and saddle type of care.
Oh, no, don't smile, Jimmy. I don't want to interfere. She's your patient, and you're in the best position to prescribe for her. Yeah, well, shall we get on with these other things?
Well, I think the ride's over for today, Amy. Here we are, back in your room, safe and sound.
How do you feel?
Just a little dizzy.
Well, you can't expect anything different your first time in a wheelchair. After all, you've been flat on your back for a long time.
I certainly don't want to be this weak when I'm downtown talking to Mr. Emerson. After all, what would he think?
Hey, whoa, slow down there.
What?
Well, what do you mean when you're downtown talking to Mr. Emerson?
Oh, well, you do have a special ambulance for wheelchair patients, and I thought I could sort of go out for a drive one of these days and sort
and sort of drop in and talk to your publisher?
That's exactly it.
I see.
So what is all this?
Oh, Dr. Gillespie, I had a letter from Floyd Emerson today, and he says he likes what he's seen of my novel, and he wants to discuss it with me as soon as I'm out of the hospital. But that won't be for months, Dr. Kildare. Please.
Well, once you get over the dizziness, I don't see why not. The outing might do you some good.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. This means everything to me.
All right, but right now, young lady, rest.
All right. Rest.
Dr. Gillespie, Dr. Kildare. Oh, I'm glad I found you both together.
Hi, Paul.
Amy just told me you're letting her go downtown in a special ambulance next week.
That's right. She's going to call on you and Mr. Emerson. You knew he wrote her about her book.
Doctor, don't let her do it.
Oh, it's medically feasible. She'll be all right.
You see, even Dr. Gillespie admits that.
I know, but...
Okay. What is it, Paul? There's something wrong. Well?
Even if she goes down to Mr. Emerson's office, she can't see him.
What?
I work in his office, and I can't even see him.
Paul, what are you trying to say?
Well, Mr. Emerson didn't write Amy that letter.
Huh?
I wrote it, and I signed his name. Mr. Emerson's never seen any of her work.
You mean you've been lying to that girl all these months?
I wanted to do everything, anything I could to help her get on her feet.
Now, do you realize what you've done? Instead of encouraging her all this time, you've been misleading her.
About the book, yes, but not about myself. I love her very much. I thought I'd be able to get the book in Emerson's hands before Amy got out of the hospital. But I can't even get to him now. Oh, I'm a heel of the first water.
Dr. Kildare.
Yes, Parker.
Your nurse just phoned. She wants you right upstairs. It's urgent about Amy Dickens.
Thanks, Parker. I'll go right up. Hello, novelist. Well, no work today? Chapter 7. Coming right along, eh?
I suppose so.
You know, my nurse told me something I can hardly believe. She said you refused to stay in your wheelchair today, that you asked to be brought right back to bed.
I was in it long enough to make a phone call from Miss Verner's office.
Oh, I see.
I called up to make an appointment with my publisher, Mr. Emerson.
Amy, please.
His secretary said he'd never heard of me or of my novel. Isn't that funny? Don't you think that's funny?
Amy, you mustn't take it this way.
Paul's been lying to me all this time. And you and Dr. Gillespie have been helping him lie.
That's not true. Paul only did what he thought best, and he does love you. You must realize that.
I realize one thing. I can't believe him anymore.
Oh,
any of you. How do I know you're not lying to me about my legs? Maybe I'll never walk again.
You will walk again, Amy. You'll walk and you'll write.
It's hurt me. I feel funny and weak and empty. The same way I feel inside.
Amy, stop this.
You've all lied to me. Lies.
Amy, please.
I'll never walk or write or do anything I want to do. Get out of here. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
From March 16th, 1951, The Story of Dr. Kildare. I'm Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Words from your local station and then the news from 71 years ago today.
No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secrets to lose 3 to 5 pounds a week easily without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt by Med Diet. For the last 2 decades, we've been helping people just like you that have pounds they want to shed. We've helped millions of people lose thousands and thousands of pounds over the years. And now it's your turn. Learn the secrets of how to lose weight with one simple phone call. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a money-back guarantee. If you're ready to start losing weight right now, call right now to learn more about your risk-free order to Body Sculpt.
Call for your risk-free offer. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. That's 800-738-5332.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. This hour, an episode of The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore, as it was broadcast on Friday, March 16th, 1951. In the newspapers of that Friday 71 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Advancing Allied forces today hit stiffening red resistance on Korea's Central Front. The steadiest Chinese artillery fire of the war hit them east and west of newly won Hongchong. The communist retreat northward appeared to be ending at a line along the looping Hongqin River, on which the ruined town of Hongchong hangs like a pendant 20 miles below the 38th parallel. Meanwhile, General Douglas MacArthur, in a cabled interview with Hugh Bailey, the president of the United Press, made it clear yesterday he believes Allied troops must continue their war of maneuvering Korea because there are no natural defenses near the 38th parallel. And Korean President Syngman Rhee today informed General Douglas MacArthur Korea is formally requesting United Nations authorization for the Supreme Allied Commander's forces to bomb Red China. The president wrote, Korean president rather, "We are making a formal request to the UN may authorize you to end this Chinese war by bombing the source of Chinese reinforcement in men and materials from their sanctuary in Manchuria in order to restore peace without unnecessary sacrifice of lives and bloodshed." The aged Korean chief executive said the recapture of the capital of Seoul, quoting, "comes as a great relief to all our people that they can return home in time to prepare for farming, and we are profoundly grateful." Senator Fulbright, the Democrat of Arkansas, told the Senate during stormy debate yesterday that Republicans are playing politics with an eye on the 1952 elections in pressing for further investigation of the Reconstruction Finance Corporation scandals. But Senators Bricker, the Republican of Ohio, Thayer, Republican of Minnesota, and others insist that the full truth has not yet been told about the Reconstruction Finance Corporation's multi-billion-dollar loan policies. The House Armed Services Committee, by overwhelming 32-3 vote yesterday, approved a bill for drafting boys at 18.5 years and setting up universal military training later. Members wrote in an amendment giving draftees a choice of serving in racially segregated or non-segregated units. This provision by Congressman Winstead, the Democrat of Mississippi, would permit a draftee, when he registers, to write in whether he has a preference. It states this choice would be respected as far as military necessity would permit. The Justice Department yesterday moved to deport Salvador Solazio, alleged fixer of college basketball games in the New York City area. The department announced that a warrant of arrest calling for Solazio's deportation to his native Italy was served on him late yesterday afternoon in the New York City jail. He's behind bars there on a state indictment charging with the bribery of 11 prominent cage players. Racketeer Frank Costello risked arrest yesterday by defiantly stamping out of the Senate Crime Committee hearing. He croaked in his hoarse voice, "I'm going to walk out," after refusing to answer any more committee questions. Then he stood up and strode from the hearing and federal court building in downtown Foley Square, saying, "I am going directly home to bed." The 60-year-old Costello was the star witness as the Senate committee moved through the fourth day of its sensational open hearings in New York City. Committee Chairman Estes Kefauver, the Democrat of Tennessee, said Costello can escape arrest if he comes back by next Tuesday, the last day of the hearings. However, contempt proceedings will be started at once. The former Virginia Hill, one-time girlfriend of slain mobster Bugsy Siegel, swung a haymaker and landed yesterday on a newspaper woman leaving the Senate Crime Committee hearing. The reporter said that the 36-year-old Virginia, now married to Hans Hauser, an Austrian skier, had just finished testifying before the committee. Marjorie Farnsworth of the New York Journal-American said the blow struck her on the jaw. She didn't require medical attention. And those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Friday, March 16th, 1951. On your radio, the story of Dr. Kildare. The conclusion comes up next on this Wednesday, Classic Radio Theater on your favorite station.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt. Your shoulder hurts. Your elbow and back are constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here's something you haven't tried. Pain Magic. Pain Magic is not available at any drugstore. The only place you can get it is by calling the special toll-free number I'm about to give you.
And to make things even better, call right now and find out about our buy one, get one free offer. We're so confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required.
Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic and get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary.
800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. That's 800-492-8164.
On Thursday's Classic Radio Theater, an episode of the West Coast program Calling All Cars from 83 years ago, March 17, 1939, and the case of the $20 bill. A body is found in the bay with 2 bullet holes in it, and a ghostly voice prompts a confession. That'll be on Thursday's Classic Radio Theater, but let's wrap up the story of Dr. Kildare, March 16, 1951.
Now we continue with the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Gillespie. I didn't know you were busy.
Come in, Jimmy. Come in. Turn on the lights, please. I was just trying to get a sharper focus on this X-ray light. But I've seen all I need to see.
Amy Dickens, eh?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Doctor?
She's getting worse. Notice the increase in muscle atrophy in a single week?
Yes, I notice. She won't cooperate. She's just talked herself into not recovering.
If only that boy hadn't lied to her.
He tried to do what he thought was best. It backfired, that's all. He feels absolutely miserable over what he's done. He begged for a chance to straighten things out.
Truth is the only alternative here. He's got to realize exactly what he's done. And Amy Dickens must be made to realize all of the facts. You can't pamper a patient with rosy pictures of... Come in!
Good morning, Dr. Gillespie. Dr. Kildare.
Hi, Paul.
I came over as soon as I could get off. I want to go up and see Amy.
Oh, well, she doesn't want to see you, Paul.
Oh. Well, I guess I can't blame her.
She's a very unhappy girl. Doesn't want to see anybody or do anything. She just lies in bed looking at the ceiling. She won't even try to get up and use her wheelchair.
I was just trying to encourage her. I want you to know that. I didn't think it made any difference how I did it, as long as I did it. I'm not a psychologist or a medicine man. I'm just an average guy who did the best he could.
We know that, Paul. And don't think we've been reading the riot act to you. We just wanted you to have a clear picture of how things stood. And then we can proceed with the repairs.
I'll do anything. Anything at all. Believe me. I love Amy, and I want her to get well.
I called you over, Paul, because everything seems to revolve around the publisher, Floyd Emerson. Now, if you could just get Emerson genuinely interested in Amy and prove it to her, it might fix things up.
I'm afraid Amy's more disappointed in me than Mr. Emerson.
Oh, that's not quite true, Paul, but that could be remedied, too. Now, my suggestion is that you make your promise good and somehow get Emerson really interested in Amy's work.
I'll try.
Where's my stethoscope?
Why, Dr. Gillespie, you're getting so old you can't see. It's hanging around your neck.
Huh? Oh, yes, so it is. That's right. Light's kind of bad in here.
Light? Huh? If you ask me, you're about ready for retirement.
Retirement? Why, you old crone, I'll be practicing medicine years after you entered the old lady's home. If they'll have you.
Well, they probably won't if they heard I've been working for you.
Oh, is that so?
What are you doing with a stethoscope, anyway?
My watch has been running slow, and I'm listening to see if it has a murmur or something.
Well, I'll be hanged.
I hope so. I'll get it, Parker. I'll get it. You can go. Dr. Gillespie speaking.
Doctor, this is Paul Campbell.
Oh, well, Paul. How'd you make out?
Terrible. I couldn't get an appointment with Mr. Emerson, so I tried to force my way into his office. And guess what?
What?
Emerson and his secretary got real mad. I was thrown out and paid off so fast I didn't even get Amy's manuscript back. It's still with Mr. Emerson's secretary. And the building police have orders not to let me in again.
This sounds unusually grim.
I've messed things up again, Doctor.
Well, for the time being, just sit tight and wait until you hear from Dr. Kildare or myself.
Gee, but I'm out of a job, and I've lost Amy.
Oh, I know, son, I know. But maybe it can be straightened out yet. I'll call you later. Goodbye. Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy. I'm glad you came in. I just talked to Paul Campbell.
Well, what'd he say?
Oh, it wasn't good. Just for trying to get in to see the great Mr. Emerson, he was fired.
Fired? Must be a strange man. Yeah. Well, I won't take this sitting down.
What are you going to do now?
Going downtown and see Emerson myself.
What are you going to try and prove?
Just trying to prove that people are human and have feelings and care about their fellow men.
I never doubted it for a minute, Jimmy. I want to go with you.
My secretary said you told her it was an important matter. You perhaps have a medical book you're interested in publishing. Well, this company publishes only fiction titles.
No, Mr. Emerson. We didn't come here with a medical book for you to publish.
No?
No. To put it quickly, we came to talk about a patient of ours named Amy Dickens.
Oh, that. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. This is not a college for would-be writers. And the effrontery of that girl to use the name Dickens.
Well, this is an unusual medical case, and we thought that if we explained it to you...
I have already fired one man because of it, and I intend to take up no more of my time worrying about it. Good day, gentlemen.
Mr. Emerson, just one word, please. Our schedule is as busy as yours, and we have a young girl who's eager and rich in promise, and we took the time to come down and talk to you about her. Didn't seem to be an unnecessary strain on anybody's time, but perhaps my sense of values is distorted or something. Perhaps if I were more like you, I'd be more successful, whatever that is. But I'd trade a bestseller any day for the warm love of a human being I respect. Shall we go, Dr. Gillespie?
Not before I say this. Emerson, if you ever get ill, don't show up at Blair General Hospital, or I'm likely to cut all the meanness out of you. And your life wouldn't be worth living. Come on, Jimmy. I can't wait to get out of here. Well, what, Barker?
Are you and Dr. Kildare just going to sit around staring at the floor, or are you going to do some work today?
Oh, get out of here.
Dr. Carew called. He said he had a complaint from a Mr. Emerson that you threatened to commit mayhem on him.
I did, and I would.
He just said it in the excitement of the moment, Parker. You know.
I wonder.
Well, Doctor, I guess we'd better do it.
That's the only thing left to do. Nothing's worked so far. Just go up to her and tell her what she's in for and what she can do for herself without anyone's help, and let her take it from there.
I suppose so. Hope it does.
Dr. Gillespie, there's a man outside. I tried to tell him you were out.
Yeah, but he's right here. Hello, Doctor.
Well, if it isn't the publishing tycoon. Don't tell me you're sick and need an operation, Mr. Emerson. It just so happens I have some time.
I deserved it, Dr. Gillespie. It took a while to sink in. Dr. Kildare, I thought I'd return the consideration and come to see you in your office.
Well, I'm a little flabbergasted, but sit down, Mr. Emerson. Sit down.
Thank you. I want you to know that I'm sorry for my performance during your little visit yesterday. It was wrong of me.
You seem to have quite a change of mind all of a sudden.
Well, it would seem so. I spent all last night reading this manuscript by Amy Dickens.
What did you think of it?
Gentlemen, this manuscript has enough wild situations and characters for 7 novels. And I think all of them would be exceedingly bad.
I was hoping for something else.
So was I.
However, there are some good points. This girl has a lively imagination. She needs discipline and an understanding of story construction. She might be a writer someday.
Well, I'm sorry it couldn't have turned out better.
Nonsense. I think it turned out just fine. After all, 1 young man and 2 doctors have made strenuous efforts to encourage her. I can, too. Now, if the hospital rules permit, I'd like to speak with this girl and tell her in person just what I think of her, her writing, and her future.
Hello, novelist.
Oh, Dr. Kildare, you startled me. Hello, physician.
Starting a new chapter?
No, I'm just doing some writing exercises. How do you like this? I've been in my wheelchair 5 hours today.
5 hours? I think that's swell, Amy.
Yeah, I've never felt better in my life. Imagine Mr. Emerson taking Paul back into the office and then offering me a job as a reader when I get out of here.
He's really a generous man.
Oh, well, it won't be a big job, but it will give me a chance to learn.
I'm sure you'll do very well when you start back on your novel.
Oh, no, I'm going to throw that away.
What?
Wasn't very good, really. But I got a great plot for a new one.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, it's all about a girl, see?
Yeah?
In a hospital who wants to be a writer. And there's a boy who wants to help her, but the boy's so darn much in love with her that he lies to her.
And now, once again, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Here you are, Dr. Gillespie, your stomach pills.
Stomach pills? I don't want any stomach pills. Take them away.
I am going to stand right here until you swallow them.
Well, whose hair-brained idea was this? Stomach pills.
Yours? You prescribed them for yourself this morning. Said your stomach was bothering you.
Oh, well, since then I found out that my belt buckle was twisted and digging into me.
Oh, I'm not going to fall for a story like that now. Come on.
Oh, all right. Water. Oh, what awful tasting.
Oh, stop being a baby. I've watched you give out thousands of these.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on in here?
Oh, she's been trying to poison me with some green pills.
Dr. Kildare, this man is impossible. Do you know what I found him doing today?
I couldn't imagine.
Reading a book called The Last of the Great Hussies. You should see the cover. Right, Chuck, a sailor.
Now, Parker, it's a historical novel. History.
Yeah, the history of what, I'd like to know.
I've been reading the same book myself, Parker. It's not half bad.
You? Well, I've heard everything. This is no place for a woman with any breeding.
Poor Parker.
Oh, I just came from Amy Dickens' room.
Ah, what a grand girl she is.
Oh, I know. So much courage, and good humor, and charm.
Jimmy, are you by any chance falling for this young lady?
No, Dr. G.
Don't Dr. G me. Put an intelligent, pretty girl and a handsome man together for some months and things develop.
No, it's nothing like that. Besides, she and Paul are going to be married.
Well, just to make sure, I've arranged a little program for you tonight. Here you are. Dinner reservations, 2 tickets to the theater, and a corsage.
But who am I going with?
I have arranged for her to get the night off. Her name is Diana Verna. Yeah, she's a nurse around here, in case you haven't noticed lately.
Okay, Doctor, you win. But what are you going to do tonight?
I am going to sit up and finish reading The Last of the Great Hussies.
You have just heard the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore. This program was written by John Michael Hayes and E. Jack Newman and directed by Joe Bigelow. Original music was composed and conducted by Walter Schumann. Supporting cast included Virginia Gregg, William Bakewell, Peggy Weber, and Earl Ross. Dick Joy speaking.
Lew-ayres' biggest role almost ended being his last, because he became to prominence in the 1930 motion picture All Quiet on the Western Front, a stark, realistic, and very, very violent program in the pre-code era, based on the 1929 Eric Maria Remarque novel of the same name. It affected Ayers so strongly that Ayers became a conscientious objector to war. And if he hadn't been a well-renowned medic in World War II, once he was drafted, that it made a big difference. He wrote a couple of books, among them Altars of the East. He took a profound knowledge and desire in researching religion after what he called a spiritual awakening and a being with the Lord. It's interesting. Look into the history of Lew-ayres. There is not a lot out there. You basically have to get the book. There is a book entitled Lew-ayres, Hollywood's Conscientious Objector. I have just about run myself out of time here. I need to take a moment to thank the station. Support the advertisers, please. Would you do that for me? Thank them and support them. Visit my webpage, classicradio.stream, and if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a show. Just search through iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, or at our webpage. Just search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Have a great Wednesday. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.